From architecture to painting and sculpture, literature to live music and theater. Radio 111 presents Bonnie G and Brayan Mendoza with The Desert Scene, your connection to culture and entertainment in the desert cities. Here's Bonnie and Brayan.
And welcome to The Desert Scene. How you doing, Brayan?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
He's a great co-host, and he runs the board and he wears like 16 hats and does a great job.
Thank you.
I'm so excited today to have our guest, David Wolgin, who is a playwright, and his play is being produced by Script to Stage to Screen, a company I know well. I worked with them several times a few years back. Hi, David. How are you?
Hi, Bonnie. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Now, I'm going to ask you to, it's a night in, is it Puglia?
Puglia. You don't pronounce the G.
Puglia. I thought there might be a chance that was the case. Okay, Puglia. I'm going to write that down so I don't mess it up. Okay. So tell us a little bit about the play, first of all, and then we'll get into your background.
Well, it sort of falls into the romantic comedy sort of genre, and I wrote it a few years ago as an exercise to sort of kind of work out a question that was sort of coming up in my mind, which was I had met somebody while I was traveling and made a really nice connection with this person. This was in Europe, and in the months sort of following the connection, I kept asking myself, I wonder what would happen if I just sort of dropped everything and, sort of one of these fantasy thoughts about, flying to this location in Puglia and knocking on his door and sort of surprising him and saying, hey, let's pursue something. Let's explore a relationship. And, there's obvious pros and cons to a situation like that.
Right.
And but I kept going back in my mind, and the fantasy kept kind of coming up in my head. And I said to myself, gee, that sounds like an interesting premise for a play. A mysterious guest arrives at dinner and antics ensue and what follows. And so I used the format of a play to kind of just sort of work that out and explore what might happen. And in the process, it became this vehicle for me to kind of work out, issues I was struggling with around relationship issues and relationship dynamics and dating and things like that.
Right.
So it just became a creative outlet for me to kind of work out something in my head.
Now, is this a one act or is this a full length play or?
It's written as a full length play. Okay. And it's with 2 acts, and we did our first table read last week, and somewhere around hour and a half kind of a duration. I think the first act was about an hour and 15 minutes, and then we had a little intermission, and the second act is about 35-40 minutes or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm looking at your bio. So you've written 3 plays. This is the first one so far that's getting on its seat with a reading. And you are also a licensed psychologist, which I found fascinating.
That's correct. Thank you.
Now I would guess that some of your experiences, in a broad sense, as a psychologist, has any of that given you material for plays?
I certainly hope so, and I'd like to think so. And ever since I was a teenager, really, I was interested in theater before I was interested in psychology. So these are 2 different threads that run through my whole life. I've seen a ton of theater. I'm a big theater addict and consumer of theater, and studying psychology, those 2 worlds have always overlapped in a very playful and enlightening way for me. And so I would, I'd absolutely like to think that all the time that I spend working with clients and hearing people talking about their inner psyches has given me sort of a sense of a language for the human condition, and then certainly all my reflection on my own life, hopefully is contributing to that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you specialize in a particular, is it, like marriage or family therapy or just general? Is there any specifics that you focus on?
Yeah, I do. I sort of evolved into a trauma therapist. I got some training shortly out of graduate school in some approaches to work with trauma. I do a type of therapy called EMDR, which is very effective with trauma. So that sort of shaped my practice. I work with adults and some couples. I do a lot of relationship counseling and trauma processing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now you also, in addition to being a playwright, you're a performer. You've got quite a number of credits: community theater and college carousel, Dames at Sea, the Laramie Project, choreographer as well. Beauty and the Beast, Bye Bye Birdie. Interesting. So did you study a lot of theater as well alongside the psychology stuff in school?
Yeah, mostly dance, actually. I around the time I was, a teenager getting interested in theater, I was also very interested in dance, involved with dance in high school and a little bit early in college. But I sort of my parents encouraged me to pursue an academic career, so I didn't really, explore the performing arts for a career per se, but it was always something that I kept alive somewhere in my life. And so, I've had an opportunity to choreograph a lot of shows, which allowed me to, a lot of those were high school productions. So I got to teach, a bunch of high school kids how to move, how to dance, and huge creative outlet. I've done social dancing throughout the years, and occasionally I currently take a dance class here once a week here in Palm Springs, and have my dancer friends, and I played the piano since I was a teenager, so I've got piano in my life.
And you all just started studying the cello, I see also.
Yeah.
Wow, you're a busy guy.
Gift. I said to myself with all this extra time in June, I think, of 2020, I said, well, I've always wanted to play, and I got all this time on my hands, so now is the time. So, I've been, there's a lot of overlap of the creative arts in my life in one way or the other, along with my academic life.
Yeah, good for you. That's great. Now, so you moved to the desert 7 years ago after being away from California for 25 years. So are you a California native?
Yes, born and raised in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. Yep.
Okay.
And I went to undergrad and grad school here in L.A. and then headed off to Texas. Lived in Massachusetts for a long time, the Midwest for a little bit, and then came back to California.
Great. Now, as far as writing plays, what is? Do you have a specific? I always love to ask writers. I write a little bit, not plays, but do you? Are you somebody that wakes up at 3 a.m. with inspiration and goes to the computer, or do you sit down on a Tuesday and say, "All right, I'm going to sit here and write from 11 to 2 until I get something," or is it kind of a mixture?
I think it starts out, it's more organic for me, because, like I said, I'm not, this isn't my career, so I'm not really, there's no pressure to create.
Deadline
anything.
or anything,
Yeah. It's really just been more of an organic process. And so when I get sort of a spark, it kind of comes naturally. Like A Night in Puglia poured out of me in about the span of a month. Once I got the idea, I just started visualizing these scenes, and within a week or two, I had a little patchwork of these different scenes and these snippets and ideas that I'd want to express, and then it slowly sort of took shape around these characters that just sort of came out of nowhere, to kind of create the right vehicle to get the message across. So, it's sort of an organic process. I've written music also, on the piano, and it's the same way. I don't force myself to do it, but sometimes I'll hear a melody or something, and it sort of writes itself.
Right.
Kind of.
My co-host Brian has a question for you.
I wanted to ask you, what is the most exciting thing about having this be about watching your play being performed? I wonder how that feels for you.
Yeah, well, it's a duality of excitement and dread because there's, I'm sure it's sort of this is a broad brushstroke statement, but pretty much, anything that a playwright puts, on paper is an expression of his or her consciousness and experience. So there's 4 characters in this play, and they all represent different perspectives about relationships and love and loss and grief and vulnerability and intimacy. And those are the themes that the play deals with. And they're all aspects of myself in a way.
So it's personal. You're kind of putting your personal stuff kind of up there. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's sort of the dread part. Is like it's super exciting to think that this very private experience of writing this stuff and working it out, and fine tuning it, and editing it, honing it over time. So it's a very private process and very gratifying in that sense. But so it's very exciting, and to just to be part of the Scripted Stage to Screen organization, and be part of this machine. It's like all these people putting in manpower and human power into making this happen. It's really exciting, but it's very exposing. It's very there's a lot of vulnerability. I've got family coming and friends, and it's sort of like here's my therapy journal. Here,
right.
Have at it.
And now I think they still do this. I believe when I've done work with Scripted Stage to Screen, at the end of the reading, they usually have a discussion, question and answer with the audience, right? So that's might be a little nerve-wracking too.
I imagine. I would be scared. I would be nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably be in sort of a mild dissociative state, I'm sure. But no, that is planned for after each of the readings. So I'll have my clipboard and probably record it so that I can review comments and so on. But Brian, going back to your comment, at the table read on Monday, because the playwright is asked to show up just at the first table read to kind of give any general pointers and a roadmap for the actors. But then I sort of go away, and then the director, Hal O'Connell, is going to do his magic to pull it all together, and then I don't show up until the reading. But after the first reading, I came home, and just hearing it once, I was able to get. And this is the whole point of the reading. It's for the playwright to hear what does it sound like when it gets up on its legs.
Right.
Already I could hear, oh, that speech is a little bit long. I need to cut that, or that's a little overkill here, or, oh, this is really sweet. I'm glad that this is, getting a laugh, or, that they're finding the comedy or the lightness of it, of a particular moment. So it's really, it's amazing to hear people also say your own words. This has only been in my head, for years, and to hear other people making reference to the characters and talking about their relationships, it's like, hey, you're in my head.
Yeah.
How'd you get there?
Well, it's a night in Puglia. It's going to be, the production is February 25th and 26th, written by David Wolgin. Well, congratulations. I'm so excited for you that you're getting this play up and running, and best of luck to you. And Scripted Stage to Screen, by the way, is at the Unitarian Church in Rancho Mirage.
That's correct. And people can get tickets. There still are tickets remaining. They're only $10 each, and they want to go to the website, and they can purchase them there.
Yes, absolutely. Well, David, thank you so much for being here, and congratulations. Best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right, you're most welcome. All right, we'll see you guys all next time on The Desert Scene.